All right, so law of cosines. We have three formula for the law of cosines. We use the law of cosines whenever we have a side angle side triangle or we have a side 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 triangle. Okay. These three formulas are the three that we'll use, and notice that they're all solved for a side. And so what you have to do if you want to solve for a side, it's going to be equal to the side that you're solving for squared equals the sum of the other two sides squared minus 2 times the product of the two sides that you know times the cosine of the angle measure that's across from the side that you're solving for. Okay? And so with our generic triangle, we can solve for side A, side B, or side C by just plugging the numbers into these formulas. Okay? The reason why we can't work a side angle side triangle out using the law of sines is because we don't have a side and a corresponding angle so that we can set up that proportion that we need to help us solve. All right. So in a problem like this, where you have side A and you have side B and angle C, we would want to first solve for side C. And so if you want to use the formula, that's C squared equals. Okay. I'm going to make up a problem that would fit into this case. So let's say that we have a triangle and we know this side is 4, this side is 3, this angle measure is 55 degrees, and we don't know side C, we don't know this one, we don't know this angle measure B, and we don't know this angle measure A. All right, so the first thing that I would do if I looked at this triangle, I would probably try to work it out using the law of sines. But then I would notice right away that I don't have a side and a corresponding angle that I can use. So if you can't use the law of sines, then we need to go to the law of cosines. All right, and the formula we will use to solve for side C is C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of C. All right, so we're going to solve for side C. So we have C squared equals, side A is 4, so that's 4 squared plus side B is 3, so that's 3 squared minus 2 times 4 times 3, that's side A and side B, times cosine of angle C, 55 degrees. All right, so this is equal to, that's going to be 16 plus 9 minus 2 times 4 is 8 times 3 is 24 times the cosine of 55 degrees, or 25 minus 24 times the cosine of 55 degrees. All right, so I'm going to have to do that in my calculator. And remember that it's C squared equals that. So to solve for C, once we work out this right side, we're going to have to take the square root. So 25 minus 24 times, now I'm going to put 55 cosine equals. So this is what c squared is equal to. 11.2341655, so on and so forth. All right. And make sure that you plug in 25 minus 24, then push times 55 cosine equals. Now, once you have this number, to solve for c, we need to take the square root, because this is what c squared is equal to. On the Windows calculator, here's the square root symbol, square root. And I'm going to round to 2 decimal places. So side C is about 3.35. Now, let's solve for one of the angle measures. If we can solve for one of the angle measures, then we can use the property that the three angles of a triangle add up to be 180 degrees to solve for the last angle. Okay? So, if you notice your formulas, though, the three law of cosine formulas, they're all solved for the side squared. They're not solved for the angle measures. So what you might want to do, and I think if you look through your textbook, you can probably find where they solve for one for you. But you may, if you use a formula sheet, you may want to copy down these formulas here. The cosine of angle A is equal to b squared plus c squared, and I just found another typo in the book, that's minus a squared. So b squared plus c squared minus, it's supposed to be a squared, all over 2bc. Also, cosine of b is equal to a squared plus c squared minus b squared, all over 2ac. They got this one right. For some reason, though, there's supposed to be an a here instead of a c. It's supposed to be a squared. Now, I'm going to solve the last one. And the way that I solved this last one, you can solve those two that I just got you to write down. All right, so that was solved for angle A and angle B. I'm going to solve the one for angle C just so you can write it down on your formula sheet in case you ever need it. So here's the formula that I'm working with, this top formula right here. All right, I have c squared equals so to solve for angle C, and this is just for your formula sheet, I'm going to use this formula, and I'm going to get the cosine of C by itself. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first move this term right here over to the left side of the equation so that I can make it positive. Okay, so if I do that, I move that whole term, this whole thing right here, over to the left side, then I'll have 2ab cosine of angle C is equal to, well, I have a c squared over there as well, so it's plus c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Now, I want to get this term by itself. So I subtract c squared from both sides. So I have 2ab cosine of angle C is equal to a squared plus b squared minus c squared. Now, since on the left side of the equation I'm multiplying 2 times a times b times cosine of c, if I want to only have the cosine of c here, then I need to divide both sides by 2ab. So you divide both sides of the equation by 2ab, and here is the equation that would give you angle c. Cosine of c equals a squared plus b squared minus c squared, all divided by 2ab. And you can do that on the other two formulas if you need to, or if you want to practice solving for variables. But that's how we will solve for an angle measure if we don't have it. So let's solve for, I can solve for either one of these because now I know A, B, and C. But let's solve for, say, angle B. So the cosine of angle B, if you recall the formula that you wrote down a second ago, was A squared plus C squared minus B squared all over 2 times A times C. All right, so I know that side A is 4, side B is 3, and side C I solved and got 3.35. So let's plug those into the formula. That's going to be 4 squared plus 3.35 squared minus 3 squared all over 2 times 4 times 3.35. Now remember what I've told you previously about plugging in rounded values. So this answer, if you check it out to the hundredths or thousandths place, it might be off by just a little bit. If you want to be more exact, then copy down more than just 2 decimal places for side C when you solve for that. But we should still get around the same answer that we need. Good enough for your online homework, or good enough for a multiple choice test or something like that. All right, so we need to work out the right side here. So what I would suggest doing, if we're using the Windows calculator, I would suggest that you work out the numerator and then divide by the denominator. Now you can use parentheses with this calculator pretty easily, and it'll kind of show you up top what you're plugging in. So, but I'm going to just try to work out the numerator, then I'll divide by, and I'll put the denominator, I'll put the whole thing in parentheses. Alright, so this is 4 squared plus 3.35 squared plus, actually I want minus. The good thing about this calculator though is that if you mess up with something like that, it's got a little back arrow. You can push the back arrow, and obviously let me go back. So usually you can push the back arrow. I'm just going to put a minus and see. Okay, it just changed it to a minus. So I have 4 squared plus 3.35 squared minus 3 squared equals. So that's what my numerator is equal to. Now I'm going to say divided by, and I'm going to put these all in parentheses. 2 times 4 times 3.35. 2 times 4 times 3.35. Okay, so this divided by, in parentheses, this, and now don't forget you have to hit equals. This number up here right now is just what this times this is. So equals. and you should get a decimal less than 1, and we do. So when you work out this right side, you get this decimal. I'm solving for an angle measure. So either you have to, if you have a calculator that has a second button, you probably have to hit something like second cosine. On the Windows calculator, you hit inverse cosine. All right. So inverse cosine of that big decimal is this angle measure. So if I say I rounded it to 2 places, it'd be 47.16. 47.2 would be rounded to 1 place. Rounded to 2 places is 47.16. So angle B is about 47.16 degrees. Now, to solve for angle A, you can either use the fact that the three angles of a triangle add up to be 180 degrees, or you could use the formula where we had solved for the cosine of A, the one from your ebook. So I'll just use the fact that the three angles of a triangle add up to be 180 degrees to solve for angle A. I'm going to use that to solve for angle A. So angle A is equal to 180 degrees minus the given angle measure, which was 55, minus the angle that we just found. That was 47.16 degrees. All right, so you can do that in the calculator pretty easily. And angle A is 77.84 degrees.